first I want to thank you for sharing your story. I mean, it's so inspirational. If you have not read it, I read it, because my mom always said, do your homework. I read it, and it is a book that is so authentic in the voice, and you can visualize as the story is being told to you. Like, I visualize the streets of West Philadelphia, and I've never been, but through your book, I can visualize it, and the bond with your grandmother, and it's amazing. So if you have not, I won't say anymore because I don't want to like do spoiler alerts, but please go read it. Which leads to my first question. You had reached the pinnacle that others could only dream of. Why now? Why are you willing to risk the brand you created to share this story?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Andrea and to Culture Shift Labs for inviting me here, giving me an opportunity to share my story with an amazing group of people. My oldest daughter worked on me for years, trying to convince me to write a book about my life. And for years, I gave it a Heisman. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And the main reason was because I knew I had this secret that I'd been hiding and kind of keeping hidden for years. And I was nervous and afraid to share it because I believed that by sharing it, it could negatively impact everything I had built up to that point. So she worked on me for a number of years, and finally she convinced me that this was a story that could maybe motivate and inspire some people, that it could maybe help some folks who have or currently incarcerated to at least have some hope about their lives moving forward. People that were formerly incarcerated could let them know maybe that there was an opportunity for them to take their life in a different direction. And also for people who maybe had no connection whatsoever with the criminal justice system, but would maybe look at this and change their perception of people who were formerly incarcerated. So it was a difficult decision for me because, again, I had been keeping this in and keeping this secret for over 40 years. But it's been freeing for me to actually share this story and kind of get the burden off. I mean, for years I had nightmares and migraines and all this anxiety built up because I was concerned and afraid that this story would come out somehow or that somebody would find out. And I don't know if it was foolishly or what, but I kept taking jobs that were high profile jobs that increased the opportunity that I would get found out. But for some reason I was driven to continue to take those jobs. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I felt like I was given opportunities to show people that looked like me that they could do jobs that I was being put into. And so that was one of the things that drove me to keep taking these high profile jobs that scared me to death, but I continued to take them and deal with the anxiety. Once I started to share this story, so my daughter and I had this process where once I agreed that, okay, I'm going to do this, her and I would get together, and because of my schedule, it was only maybe a few times a year, but we would get together, spend time. She would ask questions, I would tell stories, and she would record it. And then she'd go back and transcribe it. And after a while, we realized we had this document with all these stories and all this information. And it's like, okay, now we got to figure out how to turn this into a book. But that was the process that we went through for, it took us probably 12 or 13 years to get from the point where we like, okay, we're going to do this, and we actually had a book.
That is amazing. I have to tell you, there are secrets in my life that I wouldn't even want my mom to know about. I wouldn't even write a note to her and say, I did this. The fact that you took that journey, an introspective look at yourself and what you've done and the people that you affected and the people you've helped along the way, and you did that alongside your daughter, speaks phenomenal to like you and the mission. Like, explain, how was that as you were revealing yourself along with your daughter?
It was challenging, and I feel like it was maybe a little bit easier because it was her, because I tell her, like, no matter what I tell you, you gotta love me anyway. So so I think that made it a little bit more comfortable for me to open up and share, because it was her, and it was, someone that I, knew and loved and trusted, and I think that made it a lot easier to kind of get it out. But it was tough. I mean, there were times when we would be talking and it's like, okay, we need a break. We need to, and a lot of times it was her. I would share something with her and she'd be like, Dad, I need a break. I need to digest that before we move on. So it was interesting, but I think it actually brought us closer together. Over the years as father and daughter, we've had some issues, and it forced us to address the issues that we had. It was, like I said, it was kind of a freeing process for me. The nightmares have stopped, the migraines have stopped, and I feel free. In the past, I would be doing an event like this or talking to young folks, and I would strictly talk about my career. I would not mention anything about my past, and I feel like I was cheating people by, especially when I was talking to young people. I felt like, the most important part of my story, which is overcoming the things that I overcame, I wasn't sharing with them. I wasn't really putting it out there. So now it feels good to be able to tell the whole story and to be able to not watch what I say or be concerned about saying something that's going to open up other questions that I didn't want to answer. So it's been really freeing to kind of have the story be out there.
It's wonderful. I agree. So I love that. Keep going. So let's continue on the journey and story. So the book is about, your life. It's about forgiveness, family, belonging, strategizing, street, and then the boardroom. What's the main thing you want people to get from reading it? The main outcome you hope they walk away?
I think the main thing is, number one, don't give up on yourself. I think, and don't give up on other people. I think, I feel like I'm living proof that people can change their life. I mean, I was a straight up thug, gangbanger, convict, you name it, and I was able to change my life. And it was really education that changed my life for me. It was the opportunity to get an education that allowed me to change my life. And I just think that providing opportunities for people to really have a significant impact and become contributing members to society, I think is really the goal. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about people being incarcerated, and he was sharing that his uncle, who he was really close with, had gone to jail, and he was never the same person when he came out. And when we talked about it, the goal should be that, so I think something like 96, 97% of people who are incarcerated are going to get out at some point. The goal should be they come out better people than they went in. And that's only going to happen if we provide opportunities for people to grow and learn and move on.
I completely agree, and that hits a topic that's important to me. I have a cousin who is really focused on the current judicial system for her doctorate, and one of the things that she's always talking about is young men of color are sentenced 20.4% more higher than their non-counterpart. And when you go in, it's when they're younger, throwing away the key, like not taking a chance. Here you were at a young age, you made a mistake, but you went in, you were able to get an education, valedictorian, you returned and, and got more degrees, but it was the education that you talked about. What is it that your hope that, don't throw away that key yet? We can change. What would you say to these naysayers and politicians who are really like, they're 13, put them away? Like, what is the hope? How do we keep it?
Well, again, I think, again, I'm an example that you can change. And I know a lot of other folks who have, gone through that process and actually changed their lives and gotten on the right path and have moved forward with their lives. And I just think that, so some of the most intelligent, creative people I've ever met in my life, I met when I was inside the penitentiary. And so to me, there's so much untapped talent that, and I mentioned this yesterday, but there's this commercial that's on that says, talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not. And I think to me, there's so much talent inside of these prisons that have people who have never been given the opportunity. And I just think that we need to figure out a way to tap into that talent and utilize that talent and really create some opportunities for people to take advantage of the talent and intelligence and creativity that exists there. And I just think that there's opportunity for us to take advantage of that.
Well, you definitely use your talents to rise up the executive level. And as someone who has been on the seat of leading some of Fortune 500 companies, as well as an ex-gang member who, understand the streets and take that knowledge, you've been in both polar spectrums. What can we learn, or what should, knowing both lifestyles, what can we learn from each of them for the better?
Again, I think we were talking, I forget who it was, I was talking to somebody about this earlier today, but the guys who are standing on the corner running, drug operations, these are entrepreneurs. These are guys that have, a certain skill set. And if we can target that intellect, that, ability to manage and ability to lead folks, if we could target that in the right direction, to me, we could have some incredible people that would, again, be contributors to society. And I just think that, again, like I said, I think we should be trying to figure out how to provide opportunities for those folks. I got involved the last time, so for those, who don't know, when I was 16 years old, I was arrested for a gang-related homicide. I shot a kid and he died. And I was sentenced to 4.5 to 20 years for second-degree murder. I did the 4.5 years. While I was incarcerated there, I got my GED. That's what you mentioned. I was the valedictorian of the high school graduating class in the penitentiary. So
It's still good.
in the penitentiary. But I did the 4.5, got out, kind of got involved in a bunch of other crazy stuff. Ended up going back to jail for a number of armed robberies. And this time I was sentenced to 4 to 10 years. And this time when I went back, I was pretty much had figured I wanted to change my life, but I wasn't sure how or what to do or how to do it. And when I got there, I found out that they had a program there where you could take college classes inside the jail. And there were a number of colleges that were offering classes, Temple University, Cheney State, Villanova, Montgomery County Community College in Pennsylvania. All these schools were offering classes. You could take these classes inside the jail, and then you could qualify to move into trailers that were outside the jail wall and actually live in those trailers and leave every day and go to school and come back and have to be back by 8 o'clock, back to the trailer by 8 o'clock in the evening. I was like, that's how I want to do my time. If I got to do time, what better way to do it than being able to leave every day? So that was what incentivized me to try to get involved in that program. I took the classes inside, I was able to get into the program, and once I got into it, eventually I started to believe that I could really change my life, because initially, like I said, the motivation was just an easier way to do time. But once I really started to listen to people, and folks started to help me and give me support and started to share with me some of the opportunities that I had, slowly I started to believe that I could change my life. And I think for folks that are in that situation, that's really what it comes down to. It really comes down to, do you believe, can you change the perception of yourself to really start to believe that you can change your life. And eventually, through that program, I got my associate's degree while I was in the program, transferred those credits down to Temple University, and also moved down to a halfway house in North Philadelphia. Started going to Temple, got my bachelor's degree in accounting, actually. I was actually recruited by what was the Big Eight at the time.
I know, but you went to Arthur Anderson.
Well,
you said it was a dream to go to Arthur. You could have just said one of the Big Eight, or you could,
but it
EY,
it wasn't EY then. It was EW.
Yes,
it was
Ernst and Whinney.
So that's why I didn't go there. It wasn't the Ernst part.
We're very inclusive. Sales pitch. We're very inclusive.
But no, I was recruited by the Big Eight, and the story that Nit is referring to is, so I went through all this interview process and got, I was being recruited by the Big Eight accounting firms, and Arthur Anderson was kind of who I had targeted. I had actually met, the reason I targeted Arthur Anderson, because I met a black guy who worked there.
Okay.
And he shared a lot of really good information with me about the interview process and all, and he really schooled me a lot. So that's why I was focused on Arthur Anderson. But so I go there for the day to interview, spend the whole day there talking to a number of people throughout the course of the day. And the whole day, I'm thinking like, should I share my story with these folks? Should I say anything? Because they're looking at my resume. I hadn't really worked that much, but I'm graduating with honors and all this. And so I kind of, all day I'm talking to different people and I'm wondering, should I really say something or not? Finally, I get to the last guy who's like the hiring manager, right? And I decide, when I sit down in his office, I decide, you know what, I'm gonna share with this guy. So I sit down and I start to tell him my story. And as I'm talking to him, I could see his face changing. And I'm like, okay, this is not going like I hoped it would go. And I could see his face changing, and I'm talking to him and I'm sharing my story. And even though I could see his face changing, I just keep plowing ahead. And finally I get done, and he said, wow, that's an amazing story. He said, I'm sure you're going to be successful. He reached in his pocket and he pulled out an envelope and he said, I had an offer letter here all ready to give you, but I can't give it to you now. He said, I can't take the risk on something happening down the line, and I'm sorry, but I can't offer you this job. And at that point, I decided that I was not going to share my story anymore. If someone asked or if it came up, I wasn't going to deny, but I wasn't going to share it. And so I ended up, my first job out of college was with Campbell Soup Company as an accountant. And on their application, the question was, have you been convicted of a crime in the last 5 years? Well, the answer was no. It had been longer than 5 years. So I truthfully could answer that question, no. And that was what kind of started my career.
Using a system.
I never shared the story after that. I never shared my background after that. And throughout the course of my career, I was fortunate and blessed that it never came out.
So when you reveal something like this to people that you've known all your life, I think I read that even Michael Jordan didn't know, and Phil and all those others. When you reveal a story like this, you really do see who's your friends, who's your supporters. Any consequences after that reveal? No, I feel extremely blessed and fortunate that the response from people that I know and care about has been extremely positive. Two of the first people I talked to were Michael Jordan and Phil Knight. And my thinking was, I want them to hear this from me, not hear it some other way. And I had a list of people that I wanted to do that, and those two were at the top of the list. And I think if either one of them had said, well, don't know if you should do this, or maybe you should, I would have been reluctant to move forward. But they were both encouraging.
I wanted to do it face to face, but because of COVID, I had to do it over, over a Zoom call or FaceTime or whatever. And with MJ, I went through and said, hey, my daughter convinced me that I should share this story, blah, blah. I take him through the whole deal. And when I'm done, it's silence on the other end for a couple of seconds. And then he said, I agree with your daughter. You need to share this story. He said, and whatever I can do to help and support you, I'm there for you. And Phil Knight was exactly the same thing. And I think, like I said, if either one of those two had kind of pushed back on me, I would have been reluctant, but they were very encouraging. And so is, most of the other, pretty much everyone that I've kind of shared with. And I feel extremely fortunate and blessed to have had the support. Nike as a company has been amazing in terms of the way they've supported me in this whole effort. And it's been, like I said, so far, the folks that I care about, the folks that I'm close to have all been supportive and positive. Surprised, they were all like, Phil Knight said, when you told, because I said, hey Phil, it's something personal I want to talk to you about. He said, when you told me that, he said, I didn't know what to expect, but I definitely didn't expect this.
Yeah.
But again, it's been amazing the support that I've gotten from
That is
folks.
awesome. That speaks to who you were throughout those years, your character and how you are. I'm just curious, knowing about second chances, did it make you a lenient father and leader? Were you more open to people having second chances if they messed up?
I was pretty lenient dad. I mean, but they knew there was a line.
Oh, okay.
There's a line, and they knew the line, and I never had to, they knew not to cross the line. So,
okay.
But no, I've been really, again, that's been to me the thing that I'm most thankful for in my life. My children are amazing, and I've been truly blessed to have incredible children. And like I said, that's the thing that I'm most thankful for in this life.
That is awesome. Well, I'm excited now to talk about another part of your journey, which is Nike. So, once again, the Nikes. I'm liking those. Whoa. Sorry, I just saw yours.
These old things? No.
Yeah, right? Yeah. If you want to sign them and give them to me, I'll take it. No, but you were in the early era, I call you an OG for helping change the industry for athletes. You were part of Nike in the early area when athletes were kind of it was, I don't know, back in the day it was Converse's 50,000 or whatever, they endorsed that. Then come along Jordan. You guys changed the game. You helped where athletes now thought of themselves as business people. They figured out how to monetize their brand on as well as off the court. When you sit back and think about where things are now, do you go, I'm the OG, I made that happen. That's because of me. How do you feel?
I had a little bit to do with it.
Oh, come on. You heard those stats, 150 to 4 billion, come on.
No, I had a little bit to do with it. But, it was interesting because so Nike, the formula was, we create this cool shoe. There's a guy named Tinker Hatfield who was the designer of most of the Air Jordans. So Tinker creates a cool shoe. We do some advertising with, Spike Lee or Bugs Bunny or somebody relevant. Yeah. And MJ wears the shoe 82 games and into the playoffs. That was the formula on selling shoes. And at the time we were about to start this was when MJ had retired from the Bulls for the second time. So we're starting this at a time when that part of the formula is coming out. And there were a lot of people, both internally and externally, who thought that it would never work. Hey, it was a good run, but it's over at this point. But there were a group of us inside of Nike who believed that we could take that logo and actually create a brand. And the idea was to try to have the brand incorporate the things that Michael Jordan represented both on and off the court. And that was our goal, was to create this brand that represented excellence and determination and hard work, all those things. I mean, back then, and some of you folks are probably too young to know this, but there was the phrase, the Michael Jordan of. If somebody was great at something, oh yeah, he's the Michael Jordan of whatever it is, because that was the goal that everybody set, and we wanted the brand to represent those same characteristics. And so we set out to build this brand. And again, we had a lot of pushback from retailers, a lot of internal battles, but we had a vision, and we were able to get our team, it was a team of, when we first started, there were probably 30, 40 people that worked dedicated on the Jordan brand. And we got everybody to buy into that vision. And to me, that's what really helped us to kind of build this and move forward, because, again, you can have a vision, but if you can't get people to buy into it, then to me, it's like, it's a pipe dream at that point. It's not really, you can't make it a reality, because, it's hard to create anything by yourself. You have to have people that you work with, people that you connect with, and we were able to put together an incredible team. Phil Knight accused me of cherry picking the organization to put the team together, and we were able to do that and build strategies on how we were going to build the brand. And like I said, when we started, it was about 140, $150 million, and actually this year the business is going to be over $5 billion. So,
OG, claim it. You just talked about the formula that you guys had for selling the shoes. Is there a formula for leadership of what you've accomplished in the boardroom, how to get to the boardroom? Is there a formula for us to try and, we're leaders here?
Well, I've always looked at leadership as an opportunity to serve. Because to me, a leader should really be serving the folks that they're leading. And my approach has always been to try to find the right people, put them in the right jobs, make sure that they understand and have understand the vision and the direction and guidance, and have the resources that they need. And then my position has always been to get out of the way. Like, let the folks because if I'm going to try to do everything myself, then why do I need other people? And plus, I know I'm not an expert at everything. I'm probably not an expert at anything, but I know I'm not an expert at everything. So to me, my focus was always to get experts, put them in their roles, make sure they understand where we're headed and what our direction is, make sure they have the resources that they need, and then let them do their job. Let them know that I'm there if they need me, and also no surprises, you know what I mean? Make sure I'm informed and know the things that I need to know. But I don't need to micromanage, because to me, number one, I think when you try to do that, you put too much on your plate. But number two, you're not really giving your people the opportunity to do what they can do and to express who they are and express their talent if you're micromanaging them. So that's always been my approach to leadership, is to get out of the way and let people do what it is they do best.
That's awesome. Give people a chance to shine. Awesome. I have two final questions. The last one might be the most important question ever, but we're going to start with this one. Any final words of wisdom for this group of leaders and entrepreneurs and people who are innovating and changing the world through what they're creating?
I would just, first of all, like to say thank you for, giving me the opportunity to be here, for giving me your attention while I'm here telling my story. And I think, to me, one of the reasons that I'm really thrilled and glad to be here is because this is a room full of leaders and entrepreneurs and movers and shakers. And to me, the more I can share my story and hopefully, have you understand that there is an untapped resource there in terms of folks who are currently incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, and that the criminal justice system definitely needs to be addressed and changed. And I think with the brain power in this room, you guys can help to figure that out. But again, I just want to say thank you for listening and for giving me the opportunity to share my story. Hopefully something about my story resonated. And again, I'm grateful to be here.
Okay. So This final question is very important in me going back to Atlanta with, with my mother still wanting to own me. She collects books from all Black authors and have them signed. I bought a digital version, so I don't have a book for you to sign. However, I'm wondering if this group will allow me to take a selfie with you in the audience so I can show Mom I did meet him.
Also, I will send you a signed book if you
Woo!
like.
Ah! Okay. All right. So everyone, you can just wave. And if you're shy of being on social media, no worry. I have like 5 followers, so you're not going to be. No one's going to see you. All right. So we are getting wave, audience, wave. All right. Give it to me again, people. Yay. Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.